Every meaningful book is born out of a personal story. The author of If You Don't Value Yourself, Nobody Will is not just a writer, but someone who has wrestled with feelings of invisibility, rejection, and lack of self-worth. Their early life was marked by moments many listeners can relate to: being overlooked despite working hard, giving endlessly in relationships only to feel unappreciated, and shrinking their own voice so that others would feel comfortable. For years, they asked themselves, why do people not respect me the way I deserve? Why do my sacrifices go unnoticed? Why am I the one who gets used, overlooked, or dismissed? The breakthrough came with a hard but liberating truth. The world treats you according to the value you place on yourself. The author realized that they had been unconsciously training others to undervalue them by accepting less than they deserved, by staying silent when they should have spoken, by overgiving while neglecting themselves, and by fearing rejection so much that they never demanded respect. This personal awakening set them on a mission to study human behavior, psychology, self-worth, and relationships. Over time, they built not only the knowledge, but also the lived experience that shapes the wisdom in this book. The author doesn't speak as someone who never struggled, but as someone who walked the same road many of us walk and found a way out. That is why their words carry power, empathy, and authenticity. This book, If You Don't Value Yourself, Nobody Will, is more than advice. It is a mirror. It invites you to look deeply at yourself, to confront uncomfortable truths, and to embrace the dignity and confidence that has always been inside you. The book emerges from a world filled with contradictions. On one hand, we live in the most connected generation in history. Social media allows us to share our lives instantly, and people around the world can see our achievements in seconds. On the other hand, loneliness and low self-worth are at record highs. Why is that? Because external connection does not guarantee internal value. The background of this book is rooted in a silent epidemic. Millions of people who outwardly appear successful, but inwardly feel unseen, unheard, and undervalued. People stay in jobs that drain them because they don't believe they deserve better. They remain in toxic relationships because they fear they are not worthy of love. They silence their dreams because they think others are more talented or more deserving. The author saw this pattern not only in their own life, but also in the lives of people they mentored, coached, and observed, and they recognized the pattern's cost: broken dreams, wasted potential, and lives lived beneath their true calling. The book is therefore a manifesto of self-worth. It is a call to arms, not against others, but against the inner voice of doubt that whispers, "You're not enough." The purpose is simple yet profound: to help readers reclaim their dignity, to speak up, to set standards, and to live boldly without apology. Because if you do not declare your value, the world will write its own price tag for you, and it will always be cheaper than your true worth. Part 1. Understanding Self-Worth. Expanded. Self-worth is the anchor of your life. Without it, you drift wherever currents push you, into relationships that drain you, jobs that exploit you, and circles that silence you. With it, you stand firm even when storms come. The author takes great care to define self-worth. Many people confuse it with self-esteem, but they are not the same. Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself based on circumstances. It can rise when you succeed and fall when you fail. Self-worth is deeper. It is the unshakable truth that your value does not rise or fall with circumstances. Think of it like this. Self-esteem is weather. Self-worth is climate. The weather changes daily, but climate is the steady foundation that sustains life. The author reminds us that self-worth is not earned, it is recognized. You already have it simply because you exist. You were born with value. The challenge is not to create it, but to awaken to it. When you truly embrace your worth, you stop begging for permission to exist. You stop apologizing for taking up space. You stop settling for scraps when a feast was always meant for you. The book illustrates this with a story. Imagine holding $100 bill. If it falls on the ground, gets dirty or crumpled, is it still worth $100? Of course, its worth is not destroyed by its condition. The same is true of you. No matter what life has done to you, mistakes, failures, rejections, you still carry unshakable value. This truth, the author argues, is the beginning of freedom. Part 2. Why People Fail to Value Themselves, expanded. The author digs into the root causes of undervaluing ourselves because awareness is the first step to change. 1. Childhood conditioning. From a young age, many people are taught that love must be earned. If you perform well, you're praised. If you fail, you're criticized or ignored. This creates a belief that I am only valuable when I achieve. As adults, this translates into perfectionism, people-pleasing, and exhaustion. 2. Comparison culture. The rise of social media has amplified comparison to unhealthy levels. We compare our behind the scenes with other people's highlight reels. We see their vacations, their smiles, their accomplishments, and wonder why our lives seem ordinary in comparison. Slowly, this erodes our confidence. 3. Toxic relationships. Sometimes, the people closest to us reinforce the lie that we are not valuable. Toxic friends, controlling partners, or manipulative colleagues may belittle us until we internalize their low opinion. 4. Fear of rejection. Humans crave belonging, but the fear of rejection often causes us to silence our needs, opinions, and dreams. We think, if I speak up, I might lose people, but in silencing ourselves, we lose something greater, our identity. 5. Neglecting self-care. Ignoring our own needs is another way of saying, I don't matter. When you skip rest, silence your emotions, or sacrifice your well-being for others, you train yourself to believe that your needs are secondary. The author points out that undervaluing yourself is learned, and what is learned can be unlearned. The moment you see the pattern, you gain the power to break it. Part 3. The Power of Setting Boundaries, expanded. Boundaries are not selfish, they are sacred. The author stresses that the way you teach people to treat you is by the boundaries you enforce. Without them, others will walk into your life uninvited, take what they want, and leave you depleted. With them, you protect your time, energy, and peace. Boundaries, the author says, are not walls. They are fences with gates. They allow the right people in and keep the wrong people out. Many people, especially those with a giving nature, fear setting boundaries because they equate it with being rude. But the truth is the opposite. Boundaries are an act of love. They protect relationships by ensuring respect. The cost of no boundaries. The book paints vivid examples. A woman who never says no at work becomes the dumping ground for extra tasks. Over time, she grows resentful, not only of her colleagues, but of herself. A man in a relationship ignores red flags because he's afraid of losing his partner. He sacrifices his values until he doesn't recognize himself anymore. A parent constantly gives to their children but never rests, only to collapse in burnout, unable to give at all. These stories illustrate the high cost of living without boundaries, resentment, exhaustion, and invisibility. How to build healthy boundaries. The author gives practical steps. Learn to say no without guilt. A simple, "No, I can't take this on right now" is enough. You do not owe lengthy explanations. Identify your limits. What drains you? What energizes you? Pay attention, because boundaries begin where peace ends. Communicate clearly. Don't expect people to guess your needs. Speak them openly. Be consistent. A boundary is only respected if it is consistently enforced. Step back when necessary. Sometimes the healthiest boundary is distance. The book makes a powerful point. Every time you set a boundary, you affirm your worth. You are telling yourself and others, "I matter." Part 4. Confidence and self-expression expanded. Valuing yourself is not silent, it speaks. The author explains that confidence is not arrogance. Arrogance inflates the self by pushing others down. Confidence elevates the self without needing comparison. Confidence is permission. It gives you the freedom to speak up, to dream big, and to live authentically. Speaking with confidence. The book encourages readers to stop apologizing for their presence. Too often, people begin sentences with "sorry, but," or "this might sound silly, but." Those words weaken your message. Instead, speak directly. Instead of, "Sorry, but I think maybe we should try this idea." Say, "I have an idea that could improve this project. Let's discuss it." Confidence is clarity. It removes the fog of hesitation. Asking for what you deserve. The author tells a story of a young professional who worked tirelessly but was constantly overlooked for promotions. One day. The lesson is clear. Closed mouths don't get fed. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. Pursuing your passions. Boldly confidence also applies to personal dreams. Many people bury their talents because they fear failure. But the author reminds us, failure is not the enemy. Fear is. When you value yourself, you give yourself permission to try, to risk, to create, and even to fail, knowing that your worth does not depend on the outcome. Part 5. The ripple effect of self-worth. Expanded. Self-worth is not a private matter. It affects every corner of your life. In relationships. When you value yourself, you stop attracting people who only take. Instead, you draw partners who honor, respect, and cherish you. Why? Because your standards shift? You no longer settle for crumbs when you know you deserve the feast. The author notes, people often rise or fall to the level of the standards you set. If you accept disrespect, it will continue. If you demand respect, it will follow. In friendships, true friends celebrate your worth. They cheer when you succeed and support when you struggle. When you embrace your own value, you naturally gravitate toward people who uplift you. Toxic friendships fade because they no longer align with the self-respect you carry. In work and career, self-worth changes how you show up professionally. You walk into meetings with authority. You stop minimizing your contributions. You negotiate with clarity. Employers, colleagues, and clients sense the shift and respond with respect. The book highlights an example of a man who always undersold his skills as a consultant. When he finally raised his rates to reflect his true value, something surprising happened. Not only did clients continue hiring him, but his business grew because his higher prices communicated expertise. In personal growth, perhaps the greatest ripple effect is within yourself. Valuing yourself unlocks energy, creativity, and resilience. You begin to dream bigger, to set higher goals, and to pursue them with passion. You no longer sabotage yourself because you finally believe, I am worthy of success. As the book draws to a close, the author leaves readers with a charge. Nobody will fight for your dignity if you do not first fight for it yourself. Nobody will hand you worth. You must claim it. The closing reflections echo like a powerful sermon, urging listeners to stand tall, even if others want you to shrink. Speak boldly, even if your voice trembles. Set boundaries, even if people resist. Love yourself, even if the world withholds love, because at the heart of it all lies this truth. The way you treat yourself sets the example for how the world will treat you. The author ends with a challenge. Look in the mirror each morning and declare, I am valuable, I am worthy, I matter. Then live each day as if those words are true, and over time, you will see the shift. The world will begin to treat you the way you treat yourself. Because if you don't value yourself, nobody will.